بسم الله والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله ما بعد السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. I, your sister Aisha Khatak, the Alumni Director and Legal Advisor at IOU, welcome you all to the much anticipated first meeting of IOU Alumni Association with our beloved and Honorable Sheikh Dr. Bilal Philips, Hafidullah. Our most special guest who, despite of his health condition, an utterly busy schedule, has accepted to honor us today in this live session. Alhamdulillah. We are very grateful to him. Now, subhanAllah, as we have received more than 400 questions for Sheikh by the graduates, which we have had to narrow down quite a bit, yet there are a lot. We have decided to restrict today's first session with him to only addressing these questions by the graduates. However, to keep you all in loop, in next month's session, we will be discussing the building of the Alumni Association, its progress, and the various da'wah projects of Sheikh that the graduates have started working in as well as to introduce the volunteers from the alumni to Sheikh, inshallah ta'ala. That'll be all reserved for the next month's session. For now, without any further delay, let me with utmost pleasure welcome our Chancellor, mentor, and Sheikh Dr. Bilal Philips, who needs no further introduction. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, Sheikh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Bismillah wa salatu wa salam ala rasulillah. All praise is due to Allah, and may Allah's peace and blessings be on the last messenger of Allah. First and foremost, my dear alumni of IOU, I would like to congratulate you all, especially those who joined the Alumni Association and those having the intention to join the Alumni Association. Because this association is our way of preserving and sharing the institutional memory of IOU. You, through your experience in your studies, are the preservers of the history of IOU. How else will we know what to do in order to improve and to grow IOU? It depends on you. More than any of the other instruments that we have in place to gather the opinions of the students. Because there are always a lot of sore losers out there because they couldn't meet the standards of IOU and they fell by the wayside. So naturally, or we could say unnaturally, people like to blame others. So they may have many complaints about IOU, which are not really legitimate. It's just their way of justifying why they dropped out. Whereas you, the alumni, are the ones who stood by the courses in the IOU, stood by your commitment that you made when you joined, and followed it through. Also, you are the ones who will carry the message of IOU to the world. Because you're everywhere. You're in all parts of the world. So that message from IOU, which is fundamentally a message of ibadah, of worshiping Allah, where we entered into a collaboration, where we linked ourselves with you, where we became the blessed of Allah's creation. As Prophet Muhammad ﷺ had said, "Ad-dunya mal'una," this world is cursed. Mal'unun ma fiha, and everything in it is cursed for those who are addicted to it. Illa dhikrullah, except for the remembrance of Allah. Wa ma wala, and what helps us to remember Allah. Wa aliman, the teacher. Wa muta'allima, and the student. This whole world is cursed, except for the teacher. IOU is the teacher. And the student are you. You are the students. And this is what the Prophet ﷺ said. And this is something that is ibadah for both IOU, those of us who set it up, those of us who run it, those of us who educate through it, and ibadah for you all who committed yourselves, gained the knowledge, and then convey this knowledge to the world. And what is so special about this knowledge, and I'm sure you all already know all this, is that it is not just knowledge of the dunya. Knowledge of the dunya which is useful, we can always take benefit from. There's no harm in benefiting from it. Allah created it, made it accessible. But knowledge of the akhirah, knowledge which benefits us in achieving our place, which Allah created for us in the akhirah, in paradise. As he said, whoever takes a path in which he or she has sought knowledge, Allah makes the path to paradise easy for them. So with this knowledge, whether it be IT or business administration, psychology, education, etc., Arabic, Islamic studies, we know that these topics have been taught from an Islamic perspective. So morality, which is the essence of Islam, has been maintained in the process of our educational experience. So my vision for you is that you would go and disseminate the message, the moral message of Islam. As the Prophet ﷺ had said, بَلِّغُوا عَنِّي وَلَوْ آيَةً. Convey whatever you have learned from me, even though it is only a single verse from the Quran. This we have tried our level best to make the fabric of the courses that we have offered in this university, IOU. And we pray that you all as graduates will continue to carry this message to the rest of the world. Barakallahu feekum. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Jazakallah khairan kathiran, Sheikh. for this beautiful and beneficial reminder. It was very motivational and helpful, and I'm sure all the graduates would agree. MashaAllah, quwwata illa billah. Now, to start off today's question answer session, let me begin with the most popular question of the graduates for you. And the question is about the study tips for those who are still studying at IOU, how to be steadfast in this online education program. What tip, what advice would you give to those who may feel they slack sometimes?
My general advice would be to remember why you joined the IOU and not some other university. And there are many other universities out there teaching similar materials, not necessarily in the way we teach it, but nonetheless teaching these subjects. So one should remember one's original intentions, because in the end, as the Prophet ﷺ said, deeds are judged by their intentions. إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالِ بِالنِّيَّاتِ. So we need to refresh, renew, revise our intentions. And like yourselves, when I first went to study in Medina University, when I left Canada and went to Medina to study, I had to continually renew my intention because I found difficulties left and right. I went there in the early 70s, 1974, 73, 74, and life was very difficult there. The mode of study was very much wanting, but I had to remind myself, what did I go there for? To complain? To give up? Or to grasp as much of this knowledge as I can and to use it in a beneficial way? So my advice to students is to utilize the opportunities that you have to share this knowledge. Share the beneficial knowledge that you have gained with others. Because the life of knowledge, the soul of knowledge, is in its teaching. Next question.
Jazakallah khairan. One of the questions, I think, to connect with what you said about your experience studying at Medina University, and this question, which has come from Brother Arshad Mahmoud from Switzerland, he said, what guidance or tips would you give to someone who is in the process of learning Arabic, how to learn it fast and more effectively, and how to benefit directly from the works of the Salaf this way? So what would you advise for someone who is not native Arabic speaker? What would be your advice?
Well, I can only, say that that's the route which non-Arabs have to take in order to access the knowledge which is only available in Arabic. Elements of the knowledge. Of course, a lot has been translated, but the core classical works, remain untranslated. At least the hadith works have now been, major ones have been translated, but there is still a lot in the way of the classical books of fiqh from the various schools of Islamic law, etc. These have not been translated. So Arabic is the key. It remains the key. So one has to make that intention. Again, it goes back to intention, that you're learning the Arabic for a particular goal. Either this goal is worth it or it's not worth it. If the goal is worth what you are struggling with and the trials that you face, etc., if it's worth this effort, these struggles, then you have to stick with it. And you have to find whichever way is best for yourself and your circumstance, because there's no ultimate best way, because we're in different circumstances. When I was studying in Saudi Arabia in the early days, I established a relationship with a Ghanaian student, Brother Muhammad Rabi', who had studied Arabic in Ghana before he came to Medina, and which gave him a very strong base. So I took help from him as I utilized books and tried to talk with Arabic students. But of course, I was living there in Medina. So there's a level of Arabic that you needed to know just to survive. If you're going to go to the store and buy anything, you needed to know, what to say, to identify. You can't go by just pointing and nodding and, that's not going to do it. It may do it in some points, but you can't use that for communication on a long-term basis. So establishing friendships with others who are trying to achieve the same goals. So you have common goals, you share it with each other, you encourage each other, you communicate with each other. Somebody who's learning like yourself, they may be a lot more patient to try to talk with you in Arabic than somebody who is an Arab, or they've already mastered it, and they don't really have the time to wait for you to find the necessary words and constructions, etc., etc. They may be a lot more impatient, whereas those who are struggling like yourself will tend to be much more patient. So these are some tips. Hopefully they will be useful for you. Next question.
Jazakallah khairan. Now, there are a few questions concerning further studies. For instance, we have a question, it's actually a repeated question. What is the best way to continue their studies after graduation to make sure that they don't lose the memory of that knowledge, especially if they cannot enroll into any university with that degree, for they're struggling with that being recognized at another university? So how do they continue their studies after graduation in that scenario?
The best thing is to teach. When you have to prepare classes, you need to go back to the books, gather the knowledge to give the students that you're new students, the full explanations. This is what keeps the knowledge alive. Hayatul ilmi bita'alimi. The life of knowledge is in its teaching. This is how you keep it alive, that you are engaged in teaching. And that's why the Prophet ﷺ had said, خَيْرُكُمْ مَنْ تَعَلَّمَ الْقُرْآنَ وَعَلَّمَ. The best of you are those who learn the Quran and teach it to others. Not just learn the Quran and then forgot it, or learn the Quran and keep it to yourself, but you learn the Quran and you teach it to others. This is what makes you the best. And this is what, as a graduate, will make you among the best of the graduates, that you teach that knowledge, you pass it on to others. Next.
Sister Halima from Afghanistan has asked the question, I want to know whether after my bachelor's, is it better to go for my master's or Hifz of Quran in Islamic studies يعني?
Well, I would say that it's better for you to go ahead with your master's and, if the PhD comes, complete it. Once you're finished, you're still young, assuming that you are like the average student that is studying with us, you're still relatively young. Memorization of the Quran can be done later. More time and effort can be put into it than having completed your studies. And we have to also keep in mind, that the major stress that has been placed on the memorization of Quran to some degree has been exaggerated, because the Sahaba related to us that one who had memorized Surah Al-Baqarah, that's 2.5 juz, was considered among them as Hafiz, a memorizer of the Quran. He or she had memorized Surah Al-Baqarah, and they used to call them Hafiz. Today, if you use that term Hafiz for somebody who just memorized Al-Baqarah, maybe the Quran teachers will say, A'udhu Billah, what are you doing? This is not Hafiz. Hafiz is one who is memorized from Fatiha to Nas. That's the Hafiz. But that's not what it was for the Sahaba. And the vast majority of the Sahaba did not memorize the whole Quran. Those who memorized the whole Quran were a small minority that you could count on 2 hands. When the Prophet ﷺ died, that was the state. Of course, after the Prophet ﷺ died, there were others who memorized, etc., etc. But this is the point. The goal for the Quran should be not memorizing it, but understanding it. It's far better for you to have worked your way through the whole Quran, from Surah Al-Fatiha to Nas, with Tafsir Ibn Kathir, one of the best tafsirs available. You took yourself from Fatiha to Nas is far better, far greater, far more rewarding than to have memorized the whole Quran and not even understood what it says. Next.
Jazakallah khairan for that. Now, there are a bunch of questions concerning certain programs that they wonder if and when IOU will start launching. For instance, Sister Nuzat from Kuwait has asked, how can we contribute in the field of education of coming generation or for the coming generation of Muslims, especially when we see the level of education in the schools and the atmosphere is not safe for children and we wish to homeschool our children? Does IOU have any future projects on online schooling or, to help the mothers or the parents in homeschooling?
Well, in the case of schooling, the Islamic Online University has, over the years, tried to support online homeschoolers. Personally, I, formed a team called the International Islamic Homeschool, Online Homeschool, IIOHS. And I tried to bring people together, to collaborate and cooperate to establish online a fully working homeschool, and I delivered a number of lectures on the process of Islamization or integration of uh, lesson plans called LPI, Lesson Plan Islamization. How to take that material, which is prepared in a secular format, and present it from an Islamic perspective, a way beneficial for our children, for our young people. I set up a school in Chennai called Al-Fajr International School, and was working towards the completion of this goal. However, my visa, after spending a year in India, my visa was not renewed. قدر الله وما شاء فعل. That doesn't mean that the efforts should stop there. But reality is that, to be honest, my focus turned because I had launched the online university by then, IOU, Islamic Online University, at that time it was called. And most of my energy went into that. But still, I would like to see, and I am supporting any who have this desire. We have created a group, an LPI group, headed by Sister Fatima Hamza from Kaduna in Nigeria, with a number of other sisters around her, working towards developing lesson plans, standardized, Islamized lesson plans, and this. If you'd like to join it, then you may reach out to Sister Aisha Khatak, who is the manager of the, or director of the Alumni Association, and she will put you in contact with the sisters who run that group, and inshallah absorb your ideas and your efforts, and hopefully in the not too distant future, we will be able to realize that dream, because truly we do need an Islamic online university. But to be honest, there are efforts out there. I don't want to say that we are the only ones who dreamt for this, and because we haven't achieved it, there's nobody else to be mentioned. No, there are some schools. I know one from Vancouver, based, with the Canadian educational system, which is operating, I think, from Turkey. They are operating online homeschool, and there are others. So you can reach out and see what's there, and contribute also to what we have here in IOU, because we do want to have a school, and maybe we may focus on the upper grades, the high school, 9 to 12, and junior high school, 8 and 9, 7, 8, 9, as internship opportunities for our students of the bachelor's of science in education, or bachelor's of arts in education, because sometimes they may have, those who are studying in the education or education department may not have the opportunity to go into schools and teach and be observed, and etc. So online is the next best opportunity. So we do need to have that school, Islamic school, online attached to IOU. So we're not giving up that idea. I mean, I've tried to reach out to some who are already working in this direction, to cooperate with them, because we don't need to reinvent the wheel. If somebody has something good going and we can collaborate and cooperate, then that's far better than for us to try to start from zero. But anyway, your idea is one which we all hold and would like to work for, and we hope that we can support your intentions, your efforts, your commitment, give it support, and perhaps it will materialize into something beneficial to the Ummah. Barakallahu fikum. Next.
Ameen. May Allah SWT make that easy for us, inshallah ta'ala. Sheikh, many students have asked questions about the upcoming PhD program, PhD in Islamic Studies. Specifically, for instance, Sister Fatima Abdul Rashid from India has asked, it would be wonderful if Sheikh could elaborate on the upcoming PhD course at IOU and highlight on how it can benefit us in both this world and the hereafter.
The PhD program in Islamic Studies will be launched from March coming. Although there has not been any major advertisement for it due to the, you could say, uncertainties or reluctance to commit ourselves at this point in time by some of the administration of the university. Finally, we have arrived at the consensus to launch it in March. So basically, we have only a month and a half to advertise. But inshallah, it will be advertised shortly, on as big a scale as we can. And inshallah, we hope that those of you with master's degrees, whether in Islamic studies or otherwise, would like to do a PhD in Islamic studies, we do welcome your applications. And it is by research. So there's just a couple of courses that those taking the PhD would have to take, only a couple, and the rest is the research. So you will be assigned a supervisor, and they will help you in choosing your topics and preparing yourself and preparing the thesis for defense, inshallah.
They've also asked if there's going to be any scholarship for PhD for those who may not be able to afford the fee.
Well, we do have some special scholarships for those who are working in IOU, those who are working, official, administrative staff, lecturers, faculty, etc. We do have a special discount for them. For anybody else, there's some form of a discount could be considered. So one may apply for it. If one was a student who did their bachelor's on scholarship and master's on scholarship, then the likelihood of getting the PhD on scholarship is fairly good. It's fairly good. But if the person has earned their degrees elsewhere and otherwise, etc., showing that they do have a means to cover their costs, then the chances for scholarship would be much less, because the fees for the PhD for the department to be functional, are already very low. So inshallah, at least in the beginning, we would need paying students to make the department sustainable. Next.
Okay, so there's another question linking with what you just said. And this question is from Brother Idris from Nigeria. How can a graduate get the opportunity to work at IOU? I mean, would IOU like to employ some of us to work with the university at any capacity, for we will be very useful as an alumni?
Well, most of our center managers for what we call the learning centers used in the One Mass project for Africa, most of the center managers are IOU graduates. So we have, wherever possible, hired IOU graduates to man these learning centers for poor, impoverished students who cannot afford the fees, even as low as they are, of IOU. So we're already doing that. And we are supposed to work on, and the Alumni Association will be key in this, placement, job placement, where the Alumni Association will gather from different parts of the world advertisements where people are looked for, where people are looking for people to work in different capacities, and make these available to our alumni, that they may have job opportunities.
Are there any plans for masters in other disciplines, especially education, banking, psychology, IT?
Yes, we have these plans. They're there. We can't afford them at the moment due to our own financial status. We're just breaking even. We're not earning millions hand over fist. Were we would have done that a long time ago. But we're just barely able to cover all of our costs without any deficits. We ran for a couple of years with deficits, but alhamdulillah, the last year, this year coming, we have managed to crawl out of that barrel. And alhamdulillah, we're finally in the black instead of being in the red. So these ideas are there. I've been pushing them as much as I can, but we need to have the means and the demand for these various departments. Some are going to get boosts from angles that we didn't necessarily plan in the university. For example, the fact that we're setting up an institute for Islamic banking and finance in Ethiopia, in Addis Ababa, the capital. And that institute will have a master's program in Islamic banking and finance. So because of that necessity, it's going to be offered. It will be offered offline, and probably the following semester will start in March, offline masters, but by the fall semester, September, we will start to offer online masters in Islamic banking and finance. That's just the circumstance which created it. And, as other projects are launched, projects which are spin-offs from IOU or collaborating with IOU, give us the opportunity to launch master's programs. We will. We'll try to cover masters for all of our existing courses and then expand into other areas. We had plans for public health, also agricultural economics, and mass communications. These were three priorities that we had in mind that we wanted to launch, but we didn't find the means to be able to do so. So it's still in the planning stage.
There has been a great demand for short courses to be offered by IOU, like professionally, like if somebody wants to get a certificate in a particular course, short course about contemporary topics, or maybe something like etiquette of seeking knowledge. So is there any plan of such?
Well, we launched another institute from IOU called Ilm Institute. And in that institute, we're offering short courses in a variety of topics with certification. Our own degree courses also have certificates and diplomas. You know, a one-year course being a certificate course and a two-year course being a diploma course. But even shorter than that, you know, where we're talking about only 6 modules or 10 modules on a given topic. You know, we are offering that from Ilm Institute, where we have launched the Ilm Institute and we're now preparing up courses. There's some already available, you know, and we're increasing, you know, month by month, we're increasing the numbers of courses. We hope in 2021 they should explode. We should have, you know, quite a range of courses available. And any of you who maybe you got your degrees, you know, as something additional, and you have your own area of specialization that you are in, whether you have a bachelor's, master's, or PhD or whatever, or even you don't have a bachelor's, but you've got a lot of experience. You know, you've been working in a particular area and you have developed something new, you know, how to present this course from an Islamic perspective. Because of course, these are the type of courses that we're talking about, that whatever people are presenting in Ilm Institute, there should be an Islamic goal, Islamic ethos that should be there, you know. So if any of you as graduates in the Alumni Association has some area of specialization that you would like to deliver a course in, then we welcome you to apply to the Ilm Institute to, and, you know, of course, we'll have you do a test presentation and so on. So if you're judged, you know, a good presenter, etc., then, you know, we will offer your course. And we have an arrangement where it's basically 50-50 arrangement, where the income which comes from that short course, you know, would be split between yourself and the university. 50% for yourself and 50% for the university. So, you know, we're stepping into that Coursera, Khan Academy, you know, you could say realm with Ilm Institute, where we are focused completely on an Islamic presentation of whatever topic. And we're not limited in our topics. If you want to, you know, teach something in carpentry, you know, or you want to teach something in vaccination or whatever, you know, but you're going to give an Islamic understanding of it, then we welcome your preparedness, your willingness to share your knowledge with the Ummah.
Jazakallah khairan, Sheikh. There have been many questions asked about whether IOU will be offering BAIS in other languages, for instance, Bengali. And if yes, then when will it start?
Well, we already offer the BAIS in Russian. We offer it in Indonesian, and we launched it in Urdu. We've tried to do it in Spanish and in Chinese, but it is costly, and we need dedicated people to do it. So if you have a language like Bengali and you have enough committed graduates, Bengali graduates, and I think there's a number, a fairly relatively for all the countries in the world. I'm sure Bangladesh is among the top 10 countries with graduates, top 10 or top 15. And those graduates could get together and work on the translation into Bengali. We would help you as best as we can. It's something to introduce, it's to make a proposal and put it forward. And if a team of you, if 5 or 10 of you came together to do this, it could be done relatively quickly. And hopefully, if there's a market for it in Bangladesh, where Bengali is spoken, then inshallah, it can be quite successful, and we can even launch a master's in Bengali, based on our master's, current master's in English. So the doors are wide open. Whoever is able to join and share, especially you as alumni having graduated from the program, you're in the best position to do it. Then we welcome your efforts. To be honest, let me mention that the translation of the BAIS into Russian, this was done by basically one graduate, one brother Arsalan, who took it upon himself. He was an English teacher. He took it upon himself after having studied the first 2 semesters in the BAIS program. He started by his 3rd semester to start to translate the first semester material into Russian by himself. This is serious dedication. We should all pray for our brother Arsalan. Allah bless his efforts, bless his deeds, and give him Jannah for this massive effort. Barakallahu feekum.
SubhanAllah, that was quite inspiring. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless him indeed. Mubarak fiha. Is there any progress or any update that the graduates could be given about the accreditation in, for instance, Nigeria, Ghana, Turkey, Pakistan, UAE, and, well, North America?
Well, our accreditation, our accreditation process is, you could say, 50% complete in the Gambia and in Malawi, where both countries' accrediting bodies have awarded the IOU with institutional accreditation. And that has its own value. As an institution, as a university, it is recognized in both the Gambia and Malawi. Now, the issue is other countries around the world, inshallah, that should be sufficient to help those who are seeking to get their certification recognized, it should help. They may need to get the Ministry of Higher Education stamps and these other kinds of things, back and forth to clear it. But, we are accredited in both of these countries and working to complete what they call course accreditation, to get each individual course accredited. But even as an institutional accreditation, it has its own value that students can seek. If you need our certification for accreditation, it can be sent to you, which you can present to the accrediting bodies in your your individual countries. And inshallah, hopefully it should be accepted, except for those countries that don't recognize online education. See, that we can't do anything about. We are an online university. If they don't recognize online education, like Nigeria, they've only just begun to recognize it at a certain level, for master's programs. They're starting to accept it. If they don't accept it on the bachelor's level, then there's nothing we can do. It's a fight we have fought, and some of these bodies are hardcore. They're just not backing down. They're, sticking up for the, the conventional schooling methodology and rejecting the future for education. And we can only do what we can do.
Sheikh, there have been many questions concerning career and job opportunities. For instance, Sister Maryam Asif from Bahrain and Sister Sama Qureshi from Kuwait have asked, are there any universities that do accept IOU degree? Any collaboration that you can let us know about? So how to go ahead with a career using IOU degree?
Well, if one wants to continue your studies, we do have collaborating universities like the Asian University in Malaysia, Asian University. We have a memorandum of understanding and agreement with them where they will accept our graduates into their master's programs, like in education and others. So one may seek that route. I know that currently there is some, because we've recently gotten the accreditation in the Gambia. We were using Somalia accreditation before that. Gambian accreditation is much stronger, more readily acceptable. So we are, I think, in the last steps of the process of Asian University fully recognizing our graduates in the fields that are common between us and them. So in other options, if you want to study in Indonesia, I don't know about their online capabilities. I don't know if they have any online universities per se, but the government has recognized our bachelors of arts in Islamic studies and the masters of arts in Islamic studies. So if you want to do a PhD in Islamic studies in Indonesia, it will be recognized. And we will seek to get our other departments equivalation, where the government of Indonesia will give equivalency to our degrees we will seek that in the coming year, inshallah.
There have been numerous questions concerning how do we use our qualification to earn a halal earning? Can you give us some ideas? And there's a specific question by Sister Ambreen from Pakistan. What about jobs for students as teacher assistant in their respective streams at IOU?
The first part of the question, which is asking for placement, I think we've addressed that already. The alumni association will seek to develop a placement board where we'll reach out to industry specialists or organizations or institutions, which is in need of graduates in our different fields, and try to, be a go-between between the industry and our graduates. We will strive to work on that. So that was mentioned earlier. That's what it is. In the second half of the question, what was that again?
About teacher assistants at IOU.
Okay. I don't think there's going to be much opportunity, as we're in the process of streamlining the assistance in the IOU various departments. I don't think there's going to be that much opportunity because we are looking to get master's graduates, as teachers' assistants, to upgrade the profile of the university. And I wouldn't close the door altogether to say there's no chance, but maybe that's something the Alumni Association can look into in more detail because as we upgrade our qualifications requirements for our instructors in IOU, there may be room for assistance in the sense that some of the groundwork, could be done by them, while the more highly qualified instructors can focus more on the teaching aspects or other curriculum-related development requirements. They work on a higher level, whereas for smaller things or lower level things, such assistance might be needed. So this is something the Alumni Association can follow up and see what opportunities there are there. And inshallah, some of you or some of the graduates may be hired through this approach.
What is the best advice that you would give in improving networking for da'wah by the graduates of IOU?
Networking for?
How can they best convey what they have learned further and interconnect with other du'at?
Well, this is where the Alumni Association would take up this task and work it out. Obviously it would involve forming some kind of a group, IOU graduate dawah group, and having some people of knowledge amongst them, helping to guide and to oversee and to direct their efforts. Because, of course, there's lots of da'wah available online, and there's a need for people to work in that capacity. So this is a job, I think, that the Alumni Association would need to tackle.
Sister Ayan from US has asked how to balance between not speaking beyond your knowledge and conveying what you know about the Deen.
Well, we have to, this is a part of da'wah, you have to know your limitations, that there's a point at which you have to stop. You know, what you don't have knowledge about, you shouldn't be shy to say, well, I don't know. I'll find out and get back to you. But I don't know the answer to that question. So it's a matter of honesty. You know, if it becomes a matter of pride, where you don't want to be saying, I don't know, because then people might think that, oh, well, she's not that knowledgeable. She doesn't know. You know, if that now becomes your driving emotional factor, then of course you're liable to make many mistakes and to embarrass yourself and to misguide others. Because all of the scholars said at some time or another, I don't know.
Many
Carry
students
on.
wanted to ask about your experience. How do you tackle with unfair criticism? How do you tackle with people unfairly speaking about you or anyone in general? So, what would be your advice to such du'at from the students? How to tackle criticism?
Well, the bottom line is we use the Prophet ﷺ's example. You know, he was the best. لَقَدْ كَانَ لَكُمْ فِي رَسُولِ اللَّهِ أُسْوَةٌ حَسَنَةٌ. There is in the Prophet ﷺ, you know, the best of examples. So what did he do when people criticized him? They called him a magician. They called him a sorcerer. They called him a poet. They called him all kinds of names. What did he do? Did he shout and scream and argue back with them or whatever? He just kept focus on the job that he was sent to do. And that's what we have to learn, to just stay focused. You know, people will always criticize. Sometimes their criticism is correct. So we have to be open-minded enough to not reject it outright. As long as the criticism is coming, you have to reject it. No, you should look at it and see. Maybe they've got a point there, and you correct yourself. Admit to others that this was incorrect, a misunderstanding, and change your opinion. You know, how many times did Imam al-Shafi'i change his opinion? We know. So if great scholars like Imam al-Shafi'i can change his opinion, and you'll find Imam Abu Hanifa and Imam Malik and Imam Ahmed changing their opinions, then who are we to feel that we have to be right all the time and not be ready to compromise or to change our opinion when the need arises. So we just have to be focused, not get distracted by the haters, the detractors, our enemies, the envious. It's all kinds of people out there. But there are people who are starving for this knowledge, who are eager for this knowledge. So we focus on them. We focus on the job that we are responsible to do. This is my advice.
Jazakallah khairan, Sheikh. We have taken so much of your time. I'll just ask 2 more questions, and they have been literally more than 400 of these questions. It was very difficult to shortlist them into these. The
No
third
problem.
last question is from Jazakallah khair, is from US. The question is, because they want to hear from you, your opinion on it. What do you say about a female appearance, a female student or teacher's appearance in social media, giving lectures or teaching publicly?
What do I say about a female student teaching
Teacher, yeah,
to the
on
public
social media, yeah,
on social media?
teaching publicly.
In my view, if what she's teaching is correct, it's legitimate. The issue of the female voice, it's not relevant. Those who say that the female voice is aura, it is, a private part which should not be exposed. That opinion is weak. It's a weak opinion. And female Muslim scholars have been teaching, since the first generation. In terms of the woman who is teaching, appearing, being seen, whether she should wear a niqab or not, this is her choice. The fact that if men can see her face, that she is a fitna, well, the men can turn away. They can not watch her program. They can cancel the video or whatever. They don't have to watch her face. And if she's walking in the society, the position of niqab being obligatory is a position held by some scholars. But the majority of scholars don't hold that the niqab is an obligation. Yes, it was obligatory for the wives of the Prophet ﷺ to cover themselves completely from the rest of society after the verse came, and it's known that they were not allowed to marry anyone after the Prophet ﷺ died. So their position is special. The average woman, it is possible for them, if their husband dies, to marry somebody else. So the women, the wives of the Prophet ﷺ, were particularly covered from this society so that no desire would go into their hearts or to males who might see them, when this could never be fulfilled, as it was prohibited for the wives of the Prophet ﷺ to marry anyone after the Prophet ﷺ. So it's a special situation. Anyway, the bottom line is that yes, a female may teach using social media. She may limit it to females only, through different ways and means that it's possible, so that only females attend their classes. Or it may be open to the general public. that fundamentally this issue is an issue of choice. This is my view.
Jazakallah khairan, Shaykh, for clearing that. Alhamdulillah. The second last question is, what is your advice for the IOU students? How can they propagate tolerance amongst the students of knowledge? What can they do? What role can they play to have tolerance among students of knowledge within and beyond IOU?
I would say that tolerance of other opinions should be clear to those who have studied in IOU, studied specifically, because we're talking about other opinions in Deen, because if it has to do with IT, and there are different opinions, and that just enters into life in general. There will always be alternative opinions. And we have to be open to accept them. We may not take them on, but recognize other people's rights to have other opinions. Now, in terms of tackling the extremism, which has arisen in different times, in different places, different communities, different countries, cities, etc., where some students of knowledge, people who have studied Deen, and have taken the opinion of some scholars and rejected the opinions of the others and tried to force the rest of the community to accept their opinion. This has been going on for centuries. For centuries, it has been going on. I mean, even back in the time of Imam Malik, remember, I'm sure you all remember the story of Imam Malik, where he was instructed by the Khalifa, Alhamdulillah. He was instructed by the Khalifa to provide or to support the implementation of his work, Al-Muwatta, as the law for the Ummah. And he rejected that opinion. He refused to have his compilation of rulings and hadiths, etc., known as Al-Muwatta, to make it the law of the land. That anybody who goes against this will be punished. He rejected that. So that's clear evidence and example of scholars not wanting to force their opinions on others, and recognizing that others, scholars who are equal to them or greater than them or lesser than them, have the right to have other opinions, and people may choose. After hearing the arguments from both sides, they may choose which one most suits them and go with that, which seems to be most correct. Not necessarily what is most comfortable, easy, even though inside their heart of hearts, they felt that the other opinion is more correct. No, that becomes fatwa shopping. Whereas what we're supposed to do is, where we see from whatever evidence we're able to gather, or understand that one particular opinion is the stronger one, the one most correct or closest to the truth, as far as we can determine it, then we're supposed to go with that. So all of this information, which was studied in Fiqh 101, in the evolution of Fiqh text, which I wrote and is the textbook of that course, its goal was to lay a foundation in the students, a foundation of tolerance of other opinions. And I hope that most, if not all, of our students who have taken this course have learned this approach, the approach of the early generations towards the acquiring, understanding, and conveying of knowledge with tolerance. Next.
Jazakallah khairan, Sheikh. The last question for today is sent in by Brother Irfan Khan from Srinagar, Sister Maria from KSA, amongst the others. What advice would you give, what practical advice would you give to those who are struggling with sincerity? How to avoid being insincere, showing off, any tazkiyah nafs, how to improve that? What advice would you give, especially for those who are gaining knowledge or propagating this authentic Islamic knowledge?
Well, the reminders of the Prophet ﷺ about those who propagate knowledge for showing off should be sufficient to scare any of us from doing so. And if we're not scared, if we don't feel fear for this trap, satanic trap, then we are lost. We will be among those who, when asked by Allah on the day of judgment, what did you do with the knowledge which I gave you? And we say, we taught others for your pleasure, O Allah. We educated the Ummah for your reward, for your pleasure. Then Allah will say, no. You did so that people would be proud of you and praise you. And you got what you sought in the world. Now there's nothing for you in the hereafter. And you will be dragged away on your face and thrown into the hellfire. So if that's not enough of a warning for you, then what can we say? May Allah guide you. Otherwise, the standard method of protecting ourselves from Riyah is to check our intentions before we start. Check our intentions while we're doing the act or an act. And check our intentions once we have completed the act. We check ourselves regularly, muraqabah, to ensure that our intentions haven't changed and turned our act into an act of riyah, the secret, hidden shirk. May Allah protect us all from it.
آمين يا رب العالمين. جزاك الله خيرا كثيرا وبارك الله فيك Sheikh. Our dear and honorable Sheikh, we are extremely grateful to you for giving us so much of your time, energy, and beautiful as well as very beneficial advices. The graduates are sending in much dua and appreciation. I wish that we had time to mention all of them, but we are all highly grateful to you, and we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bless you with best of health, happiness, and honor in both the worlds, and grant you gentle firdaus without accountability, and us with you, inshallah ta'ala. Jazakallah khairan kathiran, Sheikh.
Ameen. Barakallah fikum. And I thank you all for giving me this opportunity to share with you uh, some more of the knowledge which Allah has made available to me. And hopefully it has guided you and helped you to make decisions in your life. And I hope that you're motivated to join the Alumni Association and be an integral part of the institutional memory of IOU, where you have, from your experience and your study, gathered a body of knowledge which can be very useful in improving the IOU in the future. And we pray that you will share that knowledge with IOU so that we both together can achieve success in this life and the next. Barakallah fikum. Assalamu
Ameen.
alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Jazakumullah khairan, everyone, for joining in. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you all and make it easy for you the rest of the journey of seeking and propagating this knowledge you've gained with IOU. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdik. Ashhadu an la ilaha illa ant wa astaghfiruka wa atubu ilaik.